Good morning again to everybody, and welcome to the Smart Lighting webinar. This will be a first part in the series of smart webinars that we'll present to you. So first of all, I'd like you to introduce to the presenters today. First, we have Mr. Daniel Casper, our Regional Director for South and Sub-Saharan Africa, and myself, Grant Combrink, the Marketing and Segment Development Manager, and Dani van der Nest, our Projects Manager and Systems Engineer. So thank you for joining us, and let's kick off. So while we go through the table of contents, I just want to just for you to sit there, and while you're listening to the webinar, just to take a step back and think about how you're managing your assets, which is really important. And your asset being the luminaire in the infrastructure that you're providing a service to. So I think what's important is we're going to look at a full overview of an IoT solution that we provide from the hardware to the software, the network, the CMS control systems, the add-ons to that, and what the capabilities are beyond that. So let's go into the specific. Just hold on, I've got some people in the lobby. One moment. Okay, so let's get into the introductions. So first of all, what is really important here as we look at the company we're dealing with here, the Schroeder Group itself, where we have a local strength in each or almost every single corner of the globe. This is a trusted partner that we have that allows us the sustainability that you have and the trusted relationship that you see with suppliers. So as a customer, this really gives you peace of mind. So if we had to look at it at the map itself, we have a commercial presence, we have production centers globally, R&D centers, and studio design centers, which allows you to do bespoke luminaires and lighting construction that we can really mold to suit your application. So just if we had to look at the controls that are the Schroeder Group and globally we're looking at with over 15 years of experience in the IoT space and controls itself, all the way from 2008, where the first ILED system originated from, looking at more than 3,000 projects where we've got rollouts from large scale to small scale projects, even trials that we have running to make sure that it fits in with the architecture and the city requirements. There's over 1 million light points that are connected in different countries, and the fourth generation of our Excedra and ILED platform. And what's important here is this gives you the peace of mind that you're looking for as a customer. So let's go into some more detail. We're going to show a video now where you can see a full overview of the system. Then we're going to break it down into to more discussion points where we can go into some details. So please have a listen here. I just want to make sure that everything is on.
leave the call and go in quickly.
Okay, so let's go into some more detail. I think what's important here for me is I always like to refer to lighting and luminaires as a variable science. So while you sit with a variable, which will be your application, we will provide you with options for the variable, but plus focus on the science. And this is what really we're going to do now. So we're going to break this up. You would have heard a lot of it in the video. But I just want to give you some more detail into this. So let's focus on the hardware, something that Beaker Shredder has been supplying into the market for over 45 years. So one, the energy efficient LED luminaire, where all of this starts off, and the adaptive features that we can add to this. So one would be the outlet controllers embedded into the luminaire. And the luminaire then allows all these external devices to be with a plug and play, which allows the unit to become the IoT smart unit itself. So if you had to relate that to your cell phone specifically, this will be add-ons with apps. So as the cell phone has evolved, now the asset that you're purchasing from us, the luminaire, is evolving even more. There's different types of sockets, there's different types of nodes, which we'll go into some detail. But the most important thing, we look at the hardware and the asset that you're purchasing now. This is becoming smart with additional sensors that will allow you to collect data. Then that's really what we're going to focus on today. So if we start looking at the network itself, what's important is to understand some of the terms that we were referring to. So WISUN, the wireless communication protocol, this is for large-scale networks offering mesh network, as you heard, that has a high reliability, a low power consumption, and it also enables seamless integration and communication among streetlights, sensors, and gateways. UCFi, or the Urban Control Framework interface, is an open interface that promotes interoperability among different manufacturing devices that allow cities not to have any vendor lock-in or any proprietary systems that doesn't allow growth or seamless integration with third parties. So in summary of that, UCFi ensures that devices can work together and controlled, and the data level itself, where WISUN connects them physically and wirelessly across the city. Okay, the software or the CMS platform. This was all controlled by Torque, and Torque is a compliance which Shredder, etc. Adheres to, and this allows the integration of various smart city platforms across various devices, facilitating and unifying this in a full management platform that allows data exchange, data inputs, and allows you to have a seamless interface with all this third-party plugin. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Donnie.
Morning, everyone.
Thank you, Donnie.
Yeah, so let's delve into a bit more of the physical stuff
what makes up the control system and the hardware. So for Exedra to be an end-to-end management system for all your assets, we use the Owlet 4 nodes, which is set into a mesh network. And we adhere to the 802.15.4 network protocol, which is a standard of wireless personal area networks that is designed for low data rates and low power devices. So with the nodes connected to a light through the NEMA or a Zaga socket, as you see, we control the light, we collect its data, and then send that data up to a secure cloud environment. Cloud services is done with Microsoft Azure, this platform that provides a wide range of online services, including computing, network, storage, and the analytics. We use Azure, which gives us the leverage to use these services and to develop new applications, to scale the existing ones, and then run the infrastructure online rather than on local service. Our data center is ISO 27001 certified to ensure that the highest security levels are up on our data. So the dark spots there is just to point out where you have your data lift controllers in a mesh environment. And I'll explain a bit about the ratios, etc., a little later on. You can see the formatty difference between the nodes. So the data lift slightly larger than the mesh nodes, just because it's physical formatty and device layers that's within that device lends itself to a higher level of communication up to the cloud. Next. So here to design such a flexible system, we have our Owlet hardware to be the most open and flexible in the market, right? The Zaga and NEMA nodes is compatible to connect to any luminaire with a dimmable driver. So all of the different dimming interfaces can be seen. It uses mesh topology, which is more flexible and scalable, suited for cities to expand effortlessly. And the TORC compliance, like mentioned, we integrate with any third-party CMS. That's the crux of it, right? So that we can speak to other management software through that compliance. Next slide. So when we talk about a hybrid network, we refer to a complete flexibility where nodes in its mesh network can be moved, removed, and added, so that the network simply adjusts accordingly. The data lift nodes are placed in a 1:10 relation or ratio to the mesh nodes to create redundancy in the network, ensuring that there's always another data lift close by for other mesh nodes to communicate during a failure or any change. Next slide. A gateway-less system, our Owlet 4 devices has no gateways. This makes the communication and the maintenance process much simpler and easier to handle. When we say auto commissioning, it means additional installation tools aren't required. Once the node is plugged into the socket, the process includes an automatic self-test. After this process, the controller literally pops up in the user interface with its accurate geolocation. The auto inventory is something to mention. For Shredder luminaires, all our asset data is automatically brought into the system through an RFID tag, which is placed around the receptacle, and it's read through the node during this auto commissioning process. So for any other non-shredded luminaires, the asset data can be collected and imported via CSV file into the system in bulk format. So not a cumbersome process to include any other asset data from third-party luminaires. And then the last gasp is a very unique feature whereby communication after the loss of power to the node is pushed to the cloud services. So the node has a built-in supercapacitor which gives enough power to the node to communicate its last data instantly when the fault occurs. So a very unique feature of our hardware. So just the overview of the network. So getting into a bit of the communication upwards. Like the data lift nodes, we also have a YSUN gateway. So when we're talking about gateways and communication of data upwards, this communicates within the mesh network. The suggested maximum connectivity ratio to the gateway is about 150 mesh nodes. So the benefits in this system would be a lower cost in hardware and maintenance, the ease to scale for large deployments, so a gateway at the one end and a long line of mesh nodes to it, and then less infrastructure complexity, so to create a mesh network in an open area or a very long stretch of road, mainly for our big highways, etc., right? Some of the risks could be that a network congestion and reliability could kick in, you know, and its gateway fails. If one of the gateway fails, all of those nodes are affected, you know, that's connected to it. So mesh node only connects to a specific gateway. And then coverage, you know, to limit, it can be limited in dense areas, and then there's less redundancy, you know, built into such a network. It works best then, you know, with planning and ensuring that strong coverage and minimal communication delays are on site. Next slide, thanks, Grant. So just to show the flexibility in the architecture of Exedra as a specialized IoT cloud hosting platform with an open data model, connect other technologies to a user interface. We have our Owlet 4 nodes and other IoT devices that uses the USEFI and lightweight machine-to-machine protocol. So all at street level below, we have our legacy nodes from previous generation, still using CoAP, which is also a lightweight protocol. And then there's third-party controllers that can also be connected to our platform directly from different vendors, right? If they're all talk compliant. There are also the LoRaWAN devices, mainly sensors and communication devices, which its data can be incorporated through its own gateways into our platform. We use the data of all of these devices and gateways directly or indirectly. We compute it and then push the data to the API. And then we can use REST APIs to have different systems interact with each other at the front. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Johnny. Okay, so let's just pause and look at the cybersecurity itself, because everybody, when it comes to data, needs that peace of mind with regards to how the data is handled. And this is really one of the most important cornerstones of any IoT solution. So from the system architecture, we implement robust protocols to ensure that communication and data integrity is upheld, and there's only authorized access that is allowed to this. So the secure devices specifically, so there will be onboarding and authorization with the people that are using the platform. Also the data, there's encryption data across the platform. And all of this is compliant with any global standards. If you have to think of GDPR, POPI Act, and that, and also specific data retention policies, which will really give you peace of mind with regards to that. So you might be asking, what exactly is the ISO standard 27001? It is a global standard for data protection. It keeps data safe and secure from any specific risks. It'll pick up any risk. That's why we have a self-healing mesh network. And it puts certain controls and regulations in place that will then improve the security thereof. So any organization that wants to protect their asset from a data point of view, which is all the data collection that we want, you really need to make sure that it has this ISO level standard of protection. Okay. So let's talk about the CMS, or the system itself, and an overview of that. So Shredder, etc. is the system platform where you can configure, control, you monitor. This is really to give you full view of your Luminaire ecosystem, including sensors, any third-party integration that you do have. This is open platform with regards to the third-party luminaires that you can connect to the platform. This is really a full UI service that allows you to go beyond the lighting capabilities, where you want to integrate all your sensors, any controller from a traffic count to parking sensors, gunshot detection, weather, and any other specific IoT device will allow you to integrate into the Exedra platform. Okay. So if we had to look at, and I've had a few discussions with some customers, and there's a lot of vendors with great technology, sensors that could be using a closed or proprietary system. So what you might be sitting with is sensors throughout your city ecosystem and IoT system that you can't integrate together into one platform. So the problem that you could be sitting with is that either you have various platforms that you need to monitor, or that you have too many people having access to at different levels. You struggle with obviously drawing out reports and system data from your network. So what Exedra does is actually bring this and consolidate this all together, where you have specific dashboards for specific users with specific permissions, and it really designs a specific dashboard for personal use depending on what your security level is and how you managing the infrastructure. So with the third-party integration, we can really take all the various sensors and the various infrastructure that you have and really consolidate it into one platform. Donnie?
So when we look at the front end, the web UI, as we call it, it comes to user experience. Shredder Exedra delivers the most intuitive and comprehensive city management system. It's a future-rich environment where the user has its full control and flexibility to manage most relevant data from all the city's assets. Right? Dynamic and adaptive lighting control for light to be used where and when. Here we can set up schedules or data sensor scenarios, to the light output. There's also access control, where the user management is done through multi-tenant level. It's a hierarchy system which controls and gives control to assets only to relevant permissions. Then there's the ticketing system for maintenance management and control, knowing which asset to attend to and where exactly that asset is situated in the city can be set and triggered automatically to the relevant maintenance teams. Next, Grant.
Yeah, we're going to hand over to Daniel now.
Hey everyone, hello, and welcome you to the webinar as well. So what is LightSync? I think all of us have that fear of having installation, and you of course would like to alter the installation, but you actually don't know what data you have on ground. And in other terms, you don't know what the situation. You're sitting in your control room, and of course you've got your nodes deployed across the whole city. You don't know what the traffic conditions are. You don't know what the weather conditions are. And of course, with that, it's difficult to do any settings in those environments without being on ground. So what Etc. LightSync is you can see it as an additional layer on top of your intelligence of your system by not using hardware, but actually using the existing information available on the internet. So that means, of course, you can partner with services that are already there, like, for instance, Google Maps and so on, but we're going to discuss about just now. And those additional information platforms will provide the information to set your lighting levels or even ramp up the lights, dim down the lights, create emergency situations in the case that you kind of have your lights flashing if there's an accident on the highway. So of course you can use various options to use your lights as an additional information layer for the motorists on your road. It also will help you, of course, to set your dimming profiles, because as we know, dimming profiles is always a question to say, okay, what happens if, let's say, for instance, you've got your installation, there's a stadium where there's people leaving the stadium late at night, but only on specific days of the year. So it's not like fixed dates, calendar dates that you can set. In those times, of course, you would use those additional layers to make sure the lighting levels stay up at the maximum level because of that event happening. And of course, that means you don't have to set those specific dates in your calendar. The system will do it automatically, because that, of course, is the whole idea, that there's not someone in the control room that constantly adjusts the lights or does some triggers. The system should trigger itself. So next slide. So, of course, like I mentioned to you, so what it does, etc. LightSync will gather the information from different platforms, and then, of course, will convert or compute this information, and then, of course, will action a setting on your lights. And, of course, that can be done from fairly accurate, because as we know, the Google Maps and Waze or whatever it is are so accurate that we even know when an accident will happen immediately. So of course that the surety that there is multiple information leads that could trigger that. In addition to that, of course, you can still link it up to sensors, so hardwares that are monitoring or gathering information from the application, and you can combine the two data so that you actually can make decisions that are 100% accurate and, of course, also immediate, so that you can be responsive immediately. Next one, Grant. So when we talk about this information levels, as I said, you can, of course, focus on traffic, which is, I think, the most prominent one. But of course, weather is as important, because weather can be foggy conditions or wet conditions, rainy conditions. In those cases, of course, you could trigger your light levels, even though it might still be daytime. You can, of course, switch on your lights, even though there is set daytime. But if there's a big thunderstorm coming, you can switch on your lights. The same as with traffic, but I will speak about the traffic in detail. But also you can look at statistics in sense of saying, okay, these times of the year, there is, of course, a lot more traffic on the road late at night because of Christmas or Easter or something like this. So, of course, you don't have to have lights that are responsive, so only lights that will switch on after the event has happened. Of course, you can have predictions in your system as well, where you can then adjust the light levels according to certain data. And of course, with that also is that when you kind of collect information like noise as well, you can of course then use that statistics that you have in understanding what the event is. So if you of course now, as example, understand there's a lot of crowds in that environment, but it's natural that there's a lot of crowds in the environment. It might not be an emergency situation, but if there's an environment where there shouldn't be noise and now there is a lot of noise, of course you can understand that there is some situation which you have to trigger. So I think a very, very good system to use the different sources of information to make your decision on or to trigger a situation on your lights. In view of our standards, because often, we can, of course, talk about dimming lights and we can talk about adjusting lights. But of course, we have to line it up with a standard because just at the end of the day, it's still the safety and adherence to standards that we have to comply. In this case, we are using here, and I just want to show that as example, our A-road standards of the, stipulated in the SANS 10098-1 standard. And as you know, this is for main roads where we talk about A1 to A4 roads. And those roads have different classifications of vehicle congestions or vehicle counts per hour per lane. And in this case here, we are now setting our lighting levels according to those standard, in the sense that we are not going to trigger and jumping from one A class to another. We're staying within the A1 level, for instance, here, but we're just reducing the light according to vehicle traffic. And as I said, this is, of course, what the system will do without having to use hardware. In the sense of, because hardware is always a certain risk of it that it might fail or might not be functioning. And then, of course, you will have the risk that the lights might be staying in the dim state, which you, of course, want to avoid by all means. So in this case, you use LightSync to adjust the lights accordingly. And go from, let's say, highest vehicle traffic to the lowest. And with that, of course, you can save enormous amount of energy because your roads are not overlit when times when the roads are not as busy. And of course, the same applies to rain, means or foggy conditions. You can adjust the light levels according to the standards and 10098, depending on what the situation avails. So it means that, for instance, if you've got low traffic but there's rainy conditions, you could still increase your light levels to 600 vehicles, even though there's actually not 600 vehicles available. So of course, these combinations makes the system very flexible and versatile.
Thank you, Daniel. Just back to Dani. We're just going to talk now about beyond lighting capabilities and what's new in the market.
Yes, so one of the latest additions to the Excedo system and going way beyond just the ordinary that we used to is a sensor called Sense1 compact sensing device, which is installed where intelligence really matters. With its internal AI processing, it reduces network overload, so less data transmitted over the network. The data analytics and its synchronization of its automation is sent directly to the Exendra platform. So the sensor can be mounted on a luminaire, on a Zaga receptacle, or there's one for structures like poles, gantries, walls of buildings, etc. It is capable of a few things, so quite a lot actually. It covers traffic density through vehicle counts, so something that's very interesting. We have these people sitting next to roads counting vehicles for the purposes of traffic lights adjustments and where things are required. So this sensor can count vehicles of any size and differentiate between those objects. Also, something like parking spaces, if it's open or occupied, places like malls and events where this will be applicable. Noise detection, something in our country where accidents can be heard, and even things like gunshots, right? So crowd noises at events. So a very popular feature of, and where such data can be very useful for events companies. So crowd gatherings as well, hotspots, heat maps where people are gathered into specific areas or places, malls, for instance, as well. And also, where a crowd is disturbed, that can also be picked up. Something interesting like climate change. So when rain is present, fog, even dust, something that can be useful, also directly linked to the light, which will then be set according to that scenario. It's encrypted over air secure data transmission, and it's fully GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, and also local POPI Act, compliant to protect personal and public data through its processing, its capturing, and its storage. Thanks, Grant. So to capture a holistic system under one canopy, an IoT platform, what is it that you would need? It should be one with a beneficial mesh network, the network intelligence and its resilience, being flexible to accept any device, like in that first column, not just streetlight nodes, but any other applicable device, so that these device-to-device communication, which is captured and its compatible protocols and networks, can communicate to each other. A platform that is secure, certainly, on all levels, so that its devices, its network, and the software is secure right through. One which is at the highest level of security and certified and audited, so that it's checked, on a regular basis, that it's still applicable to all security and cybersecurity regulations. So, and certainly openness and interoperability, which won't lock your city down into these encrypted silos, right? And then one that has the flexibility to incorporate every other city management system, whether that's through the TOC compliance and certification, and or just through REST APIs. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Donnie. So I think what's important now is what sort of smart city partner do
Over to you, Grant.
Is what sort of smart city partner do you need? What's important is that you're partnering with someone that is sustainable in the market, that
Grant,
has many.
can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Just one moment. Just make sure you can hear me. Okay, I got a thumbs up, so they can hear me. So what is important is the partner that you're dealing with regards to that. One, the experience, a partner that you want to have actually take your asset to the next level. At the end of the day, and what I spoke about earlier, is that cell phone and how it's evolved. Luminaires are evolving. the data that is needed is evolving. We're becoming data rich. It's the quick gratification. We want knowledge at our hands constantly. So you are purchasing an asset. Let's make it work for you as best as possible. Have certain dimming strategies involved with your product. How are you going to sync this with certain sensors? The market is getting absolutely flooded with different sensors. The technology with regards to any AI application, this can all now sync up together to allow your asset to work for yourself. That's the most important thing here. Is what you're doing with your asset, how you're managing it, and allow us to assist you to do that. You want to know you want to manage your maintenance. You want to have the failure notifications. You want to have the alarms, the automation, the reporting, and an operation sensor that allows you to view your assets, first of all, and to allow you to see where the issues are in the environment that your asset is in, and if there's any specific trigger with regards to that. We will be able to build on to your asset with different sensors, cameras, to allow you to do this. So that is really the most important part here, is what partner do you need with all of this? Just a use case that I just wanted to have reference to. So globally, Fluvius is the energy supplier in Belgium. They're looking to have 1.2 million light points all connected by 2030. They already have over 150,000 nodes installed. And the nice thing with this is that you can have IoT and Exedra ready luminaires from us. So let this be a strategy. Let's sit down with us so we can consult you to see what your IoT strategy will be and your smart city strategy will be in a workshop scenario, to say, let's put certain building blocks in place. So if this is a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year strategy, whatever that might look like, but let's look at the asset you're starting with to make sure that it's IoT ready, and allow you to have these add-on building blocks. And that's really the most important part of this. With this specific use case, they had Exedra control. We have the baseline fundamental of the energy efficient luminaire itself. There's interactivity with the sensing involved, the connectivity, the Wi-Fi hotspots that you can create with the luminaires, dark sky compliance, which is is creeping into specifications more and more, with regards to light pollution, and then the security involved. So the asset, including the light pole, you can have panic buttons to allow any situation. We have certain light rings that can change color. You can have flashing strobes on luminaires and light poles in urban environments. So what we want to do is to create a whole ecostructure for you to really live out your IoT strategies. Okay, let's go into some questions.
Maybe Grant.
Yep.
Grant, let me maybe also conclude from my side. I think my message to all listeners will also be to really make it understandable, that we are talking about two different setups here. The one is the hardware side, the other one is the software side. Our success globally, and I think we are one of the biggest leaders now globally, is to say that we offer, of course, the value of both. So, of course, we can offer the hardware, but we are not limiting you to use our hardware to make this a connected system. So in the view, of course, that you can, like was mentioned in the presentation, third-party devices onto a system. Fluvius is a typical example, which was mentioned just now, where, of course, there's different suppliers of hardware all connected to the same platform, and that interoperability makes it so unique. And I think that is very, very seldom in the market that you will find that that there's a system that can be or where different hardware devices can be connected to the same platform. The second one I think want to really highlight here is the security aspect. Of course, we mentioned the details, but I think in real case, I need to emphasize that to say any system, and that's of course why we used on every level of our system. We used international big role players, providers of those kind of added these layers to make sure that, of course, the security as it's top as it can be. So because again, you can only be as good in your security layer as the service providers are. If you try to keep security, cyber security into your own kind of world, and you try to do it by yourself, I'm sure you will not be able to cope and update the system in a way that you should be. So this is why, of course, first of all, the ISO certification guarantees a certain level of security. But I think more important for me is that we are constantly updating our system on all levels, and it doesn't mean to be, let's say, us as a company. Azure, for instance, is done by Microsoft, so we're using, of course, platforms that on its own will keep the security as tight as possible. Because of course, of global exposure. So, and that means, of course, that you as a end user can always be assured that your system is safe against any kind of cyber security attacks, because that is, of course, something that will increase rapidly over the next years, that any connectivity system is going to be, could be jeopardized by cybersecurity. And of course, that means that even if it doesn't mean that you can switch on and off your lights, it just means that you might have not access to your infrastructure anymore. And that, I think, would be the biggest risk that you would have. So in that view, I think these are for me the two main messages. The one is that this doesn't have to be seen as a one-shop supply. It can be, of course, seen as a very open and a highly level system in conjunction with, of course, a lot of flexibility. So you are flexible of using, let's say, combination of hardware and non-hardware provided services. But at the same time, of course, you are, while you have this open platform, you are still having the highest level of security, so that there's very little chance of cybersecurity. And of course, with being exposed around the world and having so many installations globally, I really believe that there's very few players who can offer that space and give you that assurity that, that of course your system, even if it's now being installed for 10 years or 15 years, that it's not going to be kind of outdated or something like this. And also not that, that is the risk that the company will not provide any kind of interchange or upgradable solutions for you. So the idea is that we are going to stay here for a long time. And of course, means with 110 years that we already have, that we are the service provider that will stay with you and be of course there to assist you in any installation that has been around for whatever years it takes. So I think there's a main message from my side. So again, thank you, and I will now go to the questions. I think the first one maybe I can answer already, because while I'm online here, the first question was done: is the system's connectivity include Wi-Fi? Of course, the focus has been on the radio wave, on the radio connectivity, so mobile connectivity, the 4G, 5G. That of course is the priority, especially because we have it deployed almost everywhere in the country, around the world. So it means, of course, you can install your data lifts in a very isolated remote area. As long as you've got connectivity, you can do that, which of course will help you to also create little island systems. So it means, of course, we often hear about LoRaWAN and so on, but of course that means you have to have a central point where there's LoRaWAN distributed. But of course, what 5G offers is that you can really, of course, deploy it everywhere where you've got connectivity, in the sense of that you have installation here with 5 lights, and you can have another installation with 50 lights. They can be kilometers apart from each other, and they can still be, of course, connected very easily together, like we mentioned, plug and play system. So where we can, of course, connect Ethernet is in our gateway, the gateway that will be housed in your kiosk or in your pole. It was mentioned in the presentation. So that Wi-SUN gateway we have, that one of course can be connected directly to Ethernet as well, which of course would make sometimes sense because of data costs. and data congestion. So in that case, you can connect if you've got an existing Ethernet supply, you would be able to connect it, which of course then would go via Wi-Fi, because if you have Ethernet, you of course can connect that to any kind of Wi-Fi dongle, and then of course you would have your Wi-Fi connection as well. So indirectly over your gateway, you are able to control your whole system via Wi-Fi if you want to as well. But the idea is that in your installations where you've got a road or a lot of nodes that you want to connect, the gateway will provide you savings on communication costs, and of course on kind of sometimes the question is asked if there's a risk of congestion or interference in your data transmission. And in this case, of course, you would avoid this with these gateways that you can now install either on poles or inside kiosks and so on.
There's another question posted. As this is based on wireless communication, is ICASA approved required for these kind of systems? Certainly so, and I can confirm that all our hardware is locally ICASA certified, and also so for every other country. So the FAEs are highly involved with the local certifications, and then we send the physical devices in with its data sheets, and through the ICASA process we get approval or non-approval for the different systems. So yes, the Owlet 4 nodes are ICASA certified.
Just another question that is not in the chat here, but that has been posted via WhatsApp. If of course AI bots or AI intelligence can be applied to the system and managing it, that is clearly the case, and that's what I think LightSync is offering as well, is that not only LightSync will provide the information into the system, but also is converting and managing the data. So that means, of course, you can link the system up and use available AI intelligence to make decisions on behalf of you. I think that is, of course, the key feature. And of course, AI can also in that way, that's what we are doing in some installation globally, create, of course, maintenance reports, predictive maintenance reports specifically. So not only when the lights are off, then we only react, but we actually can already do some kind of predictive maintenance. Also, if there's, of course, let's say example now, load shedding. So of course, this can be connected to your total usage of grid, so that if there is a strain on the grid, the lights can be dimmed already to such a state that, of course, it still complies, but at the same time gives some leverage on the usage of the power. So that means, of course, the intelligence could be used to ease off in times when there is a strain on the supply of or the grid and the supply of energy. So that AI, and I think that is something which, of course, is then also independently and, of course, can be used by service providers that you're familiar with. So if you believe this should be done by X, Y, Z supplier information, or chatbots or whatever it is, then of course this can be linked to it. So it means that it doesn't have to be us dictating to you which service provider is going to be the best. Of course, it can be done by several service providers, I suppose. But of course, in our view, we always have to look at security aspects. So in that case, we would be mostly using AI that comes from reputable service providers. In this case, mostly Microsoft and so on, which of course would be the one that I think gives the accurate data. So that is just a question that was not posted here in the Q&A. But might help some of you as well.
Thank you, Daniel. Any more questions? Please pop it into the Q&A section now. Just a note that we will send the presentation and a copy the webinar. It will also be posted on YouTube, so you will get all this information firsthand. And please contact us for any just general discussions around your smart city and IoT requirements, and we'll happily consult with you. So I'll just give it another minute and see if anybody else posts in the Q&A. But just a thank you from us for joining us, and the end of the year is here, and just wishing you all the best for the festive season, and have a good break, and we'll see you early next year, and let's kick off with all your IoT requirements. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Grant. Just 1 second, because I said I've been told by Nadia that we have to still, of course, also do the poll, in the sense of that we have to and maybe you can give some more information on that one. But before we go there, I just would like, of course, apart from thanking all the listeners here for taking time in this busy time of the year to attend to this meeting or this webinar, I would actually like to just one thing I would like to mention as well is that, of course, we can kind of support and create discussions between different stakeholders to each other. So if you as a end user or contractor or consultant or whatever, wherever you are based in, you want to discuss with different parts of the world on how they cope with certain situations and use the system to simplify their lives, we can facilitate that. So we can actually get you in touch with other municipalities. We can get you in touch with road infrastructure operators and so on, to actually share some knowledge, share some experience, to also give you the surety before you invest in any kind of money, that you, as said, can get understanding of what benefits this can give you from not being heard through us, but actually heard directly from the client. So that's what we certainly can provide as well, to give you the assurance of our system. I think maybe there's just there's another question I see, Grant, which you maybe can see here. Eugenia typed it in on behalf of a customer. So in this case, of course, it was asked what happens after 10 years of when we do the upfront payment of data. That is, of course, happens in a lot of cases, and actually happens even in our case where installations have been there for more than 10 years. There's no challenge for that. So in that case, of course, you can upfront already decide if you want to have a longer period of data covered with your upfront costs. So that is option number one. After 10 years, of course, you can extend your data as you want to have it. So you can extend it to a few years, you can extend it to 10 years or whatever happens. Then so I think that is certainly one thing. Again, if you, of course, would use, and that's one thing that has to be mentioned, if you use the Ethernet, so if you use your gateway, the one that is can be installed in the cabinets, which you can connect to the Ethernet, and then of course you don't have any data. So that means, of course, here the modules, the mesh nodes that you have, of course, they are not being built any data. So that means, of course, that you can now use a system that is, let's say, free on data costs. If you do that concept. So again, we can help you, of course, if you've got existing connectivity, that would not make sense to use the data lifter as well. I think the data lifter is only there to connect you in the remote areas. And for that one, like I said, you can apply upfront payment of 10 years. You can also do upfront payment of 20 years if you want to. But of course, what we want to make sure is that you are having the options to have everything upfront, clarified how much it will be. Doesn't matter how much data the system will then be using. So if you, for instance, are downloading the data every 10 minutes, of course, we will always provide the sufficient data for your system to work for 10 years or the defined period of time. So we're not giving you a certain data package. So as example, giving you 2 gigabytes and say, okay, after 2 gigabytes, it's your problem. Of course, we give you unlimited data so that you can use the system as much as you want to for that specific time period. And that, of course, is also a unique feature, because I've seen a lot of systems where, of course, certain either data packages are included, or there is a kind of no data included, and then, of course, you're liable for your own data connection, and then, of course, your system can fail very quickly because you are, let's say, don't have budget for the data. So I think, or running out of data quicker than you think. So that means, of course, it's very difficult to manage budgets if you don't know how much data your system will consume. But on our system, we give you upfront, at least so that you can budget accordingly in view of timelines. Grant, do you want to talk about the warranty aspect? I see there's another question posted.
Yeah. So standard warranty does apply specifically to the luminaire itself. Obviously, we can, due to the product itself and the amount of technology in the product, we can extend that accordingly. The system will be covered for that period of your the contract. So there won't be any issues there with the system warranty and the luminaire warranty. Also, just to add to what Daniel said, the data usage is very, very small. So I know we do get charged a lot for data, but it's only a 50 KB upload on the data node. So it's very, it's not data heavy. So that's why we're very comfortable in covering those costs for that period of your contract.
Maybe just to add to the warranty aspect, of course, we mentioned a lot about third-party items. Of course, the third-party items that are integrated, we will, of course, not cover those third-party items on the warranty side of it. It will be, of course, whatever we supply will be covered. But if we use different levels and different systems and different hardwares that we will provide, of course, we will cover all the warranties. So we will certainly not be the ones who is telling you, okay, because you use our sensor, that you have to go to anyone, or if you use a camera system, or if you use a panic button or whatever it is. If we supply the system, we will, of course, cover the warranty as such. So that is clear. And of course, that is all covered in our contract. Also, I think one thing that is very, very important for us is that we clarify upfront in our contracts of what your expectations and what our expectations are, our deliverables will be, so that you are not sitting later on and say, I expected that Bika will do all of this, and then you come on and then the service provider will come and say, okay, but now there's the T's and C's and you will not be there and so on. So we will cover all of that upfront. That is what Grant said, being local, being available for you. We will sit down with you and clarify all the expectations. That means even things like basic things like, and these things are often forgotten, is to say, okay, if you need support, how many tickets can you log, or how many, how quickly you can get your information, or how quickly events can be sorted. All of this is going to be clarified up front, which again, I've seen in myself. If you set up contracts and then suddenly you want to make use of it, of the support, and then suddenly the service provider will tell you, no, this is only once a month you can log a ticket, or we're only going to help you within a 1 week period, or whatever it is. So of course, we can set up different parameters. We've got in our installations overseas, we've got various installations where we have a few hour response time, or at least a 24-hour response time. So that means that if there's anything with the system that is not working, we've got support. And of course, being globally available, if something happens at nighttime, we've got, of course, 24-hour support as well. So that means we are not limited to any kind of working hours or something like this. Our system is being supported globally, which means you will get support from us any time of the day, any time of the year.
I can answer the next question. Can data be transformed into graphic reports? So based on performance, energy usage, faults, etc. Certainly, the reporting tool within the web UI is very strong, based on the asset data and your asset management scheme in the back end. Any data from your assets can be pulled into a certain report. The web UI allows for different widgets, and these widgets, as we know it, are preset and predefined tools that can be incorporated into a need or a scenario that you require. So yes, the web UI is very user friendly, however, also very complex for advanced users, and certainly graphics for reports of many kinds. Reports tools are available. There's also heat maps available of your assets over the whole city, etc. So definitely and most certainly a lot of different graphic portions of the reports are available to you. Another question, can you also issue job cards through applications to repair, man and clear it once it's attended to? Yes, absolutely. So through the ticketing system, also a very flexible process within the web UI. You can set and preset defined scenarios to different maintenance groups within the tenant hierarchy, as I mentioned it. So the assets only allowed to that tenant can be set to very specific maintenance teams within that tenant. And this ticketing system stays open to the person that is responsible to clear them out. So again, whoever is set to be that person at the front end will have the permissions to, or the only one to have the permissions to and clear those ticketings once it's done. So there's also a hierarchy in who is allowed and what is allowed to be set, but certainly a very flexible ticketing system built into the management system.
Thank you, Donnie. Just one more question, or one more maybe added information that I can give you on the sensor, which was maybe not highlighted enough, is of course the sensor itself is a very powerful multi-use sensor all in one. So you don't need additional sensors, you have everything in one go. But I think the most important aspect about the sensor is that it still issues very low data consumption on it. So it doesn't mean that even though it has a camera on it and it detects noise the whole time, that it will also use a lot of data. So because of course often with sensors and camera systems that you have, you need to then provide a Ethernet cable or something like this because the data usage is very high, or you need to provide a Wi-Fi network or something like this, which of course is very costly and of course high on data consumption. So the sensor itself is computing all the data within the sensor. So this is onboard processing. And of course, that also provides the very important level of data security, which means that it, of course, let's say example, it takes pictures and videos of the traffic and of course the people and so on. It will not have any information storage about, let's say, facial recognition or the number plate recognition for users data protection. So that means that, of course, the sensor can be deployed anywhere without having to get consent of the users because it's onboard processing. So that means, of course, it can be used in any application. And of course, it provides the right information because you will set it up at what it recognizes, what it triggers, how it will configure that can be done also remotely. Don't worry, you don't have to now install the sensor and then having to configure it on site. The sensor can be installed and it can be configured remotely so that when the sensor is operating on its own, it will, of course, be set up as specific areas which it can measure and so on. So, for instance, if you've got a road, and of course, you want to see if kind of what type of motorists are using the road, you can identify that, bikes, trucks, vehicles, you can identify speed and so on. But of course, you also can set zones so that you can say, okay, you only measure in this zone and not go beyond it, which of course is like a typical surveillance camera. So you've got all the kind of settings and features that you can have with a monitoring sensor camera, but you at the same time use very little data, which I think is unique for using a sensor like this in our environments, where of course you can get the information without having to pay or to invest in a lot of data, and of course with that the risk that you run out of data and then the system is not operating anymore.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Please stay tuned for the poll. There are 3 questions. We would love your feedback because that will just help us in doing future webinars and giving you the content that you need and want. So again, thank you to everybody. Thank you to the presenters, and and all the best, and have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.